some underneath stuff, some screen stuff, and it popped for touchdowns. I'm all for it. I don't know why teams don't run more screens in this league. The Bears' offense last year was way too reliant on Justin Fields doing something amazing. Do you know who was number one in the NFL in yards after the catch? The Chiefs. Andy Reid dialing up layups, dialing up screens, bubble screens, letting the fast guys do the work. Even Mahomes is only amazing 2 to 3 times a game. It was like the Bears last year relied on Justin Fields to be amazing 17 times a game. That's not realistic. That's very much Ron Rivera with Cam early in his career, Big Ben early with Tomlin. And by the way, another defensive coach, Sean McDermott, does that with Josh Allen. These defensive coaches aren't as creative and tend to ask their star quarterbacks to be amazing. I mean, that Chuck Pagano with Andrew Luck, McDermott with Josh Allen, Ron Rivera with Cam. It's not fair. Andy Reid, even with Mahomes, he's dialing up clever all the time. Underneath stuff, let my guy have layups. So I don't care how it looks. Justin Fields had some layups, and they became points. I don't care. They're just that you can't. Justin Fields' amazing talent. You can't ask Josh Allen to be the run game. It doesn't work. It will be highlight material, but Josh Allen's first year in the league, he was a YouTube quarterback, which is what I've said about Justin Fields. He's a great highlight guy. Make the game easier for him. And by the way, all the great quarterbacks have had a guy. Breeze had Alvin Kamara. Brady had James White. McKinnon for Mahomes. The dump-off guy. The screen guy. The layup guy. Should have 7, 8, 9, 10 of those per game. So I love what they did. I wish they did it more. Even as gifted as Justin Fields, Cam, Josh Allen, Steve Young, all these guys can be, Lamar, you can't ask them to be amazing 17 times. If you could get 3 great Justin Fields plays where you're like, whoa, Michael Jordan scored 30 a night, 24 were mid-range jumpers. And then 3 times he would switch hands. He would do something that literally you and your friends who went to the game talked about for a week. You can't ask Michael Jordan to do that for 22 of his 32 points. So I like what Chicago did. Eberflus is like, we were last in the league in yards after a catch. Let's get good at this. And they've added Robert Tonyan, DJ Moore, Claypool last year. Backs are fine. O-line's not as bad as you think. So Matt Eberflus on the yards after catch.
When you increase your skill on your football team, the catch and runs get larger, right? And the stat line looks better. So we're going to continue to do that. And certainly we're going to take our shots down the field as well. But it's a good thing to see. And it's not a real big surprise to anybody that's been around because we've all seen it in practice.
That was nice. It was encouraging. I got to tell you, when I watched the Bears, I know, that's your team. As I watched them, I was like, okay, take a little burden. I've been on this for 3 years on Josh Allen. He cannot be your run game. You cannot ask Justin Fields to be your offense. Like, there's a reason they're called receivers. They receive the ball. They're called running backs. They run with the ball. Allow them to. I thought one of the big moves of the offseason for the Bears was Robert Tonyan. So they went and got a second tight end. Tight ends are a great ally of young quarterbacks. Like, help your young quarterback out. So there's some juice.
So besides having DJ Moore as like a gadget guy, let's throw it behind the line of scrimmage, you know what that does? That frees up Mooney, who's a 4-3-8 guy on the outside, and Chase Claypool, who can win the contested catches. Hey, you guys, the safeties have to worry about more. We're just going to ISO Darnell Mooney and just throw a couple bombs to him, and he's going to beat you over the top. I love what they set up in the preseason. You come away from this like, oh, it's a new element to the Bears. We got to prepare for that. And now we're like, okay, well, we're doing this to set up this over here. I'm just, again, the Bears' schedule is favorable. Arrow point, look at you grinning. He's all excited about the Bears.
I was 7 to 8 on the Bears. I have moved them up to 8 or 9 after this performance.
So who's in the cellar in that division?
Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah. They have to be.
I mean, you and I have had a lot of opinions on this division. I think we both agree the momentum and offensive personnel for Detroit's really good. Minnesota will be fine, won't go 11-0 in close games. Chicago's got much better pieces for Justin Fields. Let's see how it develops. And Jordan Love's not it.
So, again, you're sitting poolside sending texts, and someone sent me something about the Vikings, and they were like, hey, look at how closely their offseason moves have been done this offseason. Minnesota almost seems like they're setting up next year. Like, this is going to be a transition year where they start to figure out who they're keeping. Remember, new GM came in, new head coach, and it's almost like they might take more than a little step back. I haven't totally booted them out of the playoffs, but look at their defense, Colin, and look at their offensive line. It looks like they're setting up next year, the next move. Like, this is, hey, we got to the playoffs last year. That's great. Nice job. If we win 8 games and miss the playoffs, not a big deal. Yeah. We're setting up for the future.
Well, Vikings fan base is loyal. It's large. And the truth is they've almost always been competent in most of my life. They're very rarely have you said the Vikings are terrible.
Yeah.
So, they certainly have built up a lot of equity with their fan base. One of the best stadiums, pull back. They've even played, Kirk Cousins, he played Aaron Rodgers 50-50 straight up. They've always been a viable team, even having to face Green Bay's superstar quarterbacks. They've always been viable.
Moving off Dalvin Cook. And
yeah, the Bears and the Lions have had, rudderless eras. I never feel that with Minnesota. I always feel like they're kind of well run. I watched them as a kid go to Super Bowl after Super Bowl with Bud Grant, Alan Page, Jim Marshall. They had these great Fran Tarkenton. They were always competent. So the Athletic ranks. Kansas City was great. 60s, 70s, Hank Stram, Len Dawson. Steelers were the dominant team of my childhood in the 70s, the Steel Curtain. Terry Bradshaw, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green, Chuck Noll, on and on and on. But let's look at the last decade, where Kansas City's gotten to 5 straight AFC championships, and Pittsburgh's been to 1 in 10 years. Now, you could say that's all Mahomes, but let's go back to same glasses, different lens. How do they view football going forward? The Chiefs are 3rd in offensive spending, near the bottom of the NFL on defense. The Steelers are 3rd or 4th highest spenders on defense. Both rosters are very good. Both coaches are very good. Both rosters, organization, ownership, excellent. But the Chiefs are viewed differently today. They're viewed as creative and progressive and cutting edge and clever. Move off players quickly, especially on the defensive side if they're not named Chris Jones. Pittsburgh today is viewed as tough, physical, defense. And for 5 years, they can't figure out their offensive line or running game. Both rosters are stacked. Both owners are great. Both coaches will make the Hall of Fame. But they view the world differently. Kansas City's view is mine, so I favor it. Due to rule changes, you just can't do things you could do 10 years ago defensively, against corners, against tight ends. So Kansas City pays Chris Jones, an elite defender up front, and then just goes cheap and young and fast on defense. Remember, more players on defense went to the IR last year than offense. Defensive players blow stuff up. You don't want them old. They stay out after an injury longer. Kansas City's view, spend the money on offense, keep the defense young, fast, cheap, and fresh. If they get hurt, they recover more quickly. The Steelers' worldview, more sacks. The Steelers have led the NFL in sacks for the last 6 years. 0 playoff wins. 0. The Warriors valued shooting. The Sixers at the same time years ago valued size. How did it work out? The Chiefs value points, flexibility, creativity. The Steelers value old school toughness, defensive players, and sacks. It should be noted the last 5 Super Bowl champs, 0 have had a top 5 defense. You watched the Super Bowl. We thought that Eagles defense was great, and then it met Mahomes. We bragged about how good that young Kansas City defense was, and then they met Jalen Hurts. By the way, the Niners couldn't stop either offense, and the Niners defense is about as stacked as any defense has been, except, or maybe with the Seahawks a few years back. Same glasses, different lens. Success is about staying current. I like how the Chiefs see the world, even though I think the Steelers have a great ownership group. Draft and develop, Hall of Fame coach, and a stacked roster. Jordan Love, according to 50 scouts, executives, coaches, coordinators, Jordan Love is in tier 4, 1 spot ahead of Baker Mayfield, 2 spots ahead of Sam Howell, and 2 spots below the last player taken, Brock Purdy, 2 years ago. Jordan Love. In the